So sometimes I get asked about why is it important for my child to learn to throw or catch? If they're never going to maybe play a sport, they might not choose a sport that has throwing or catching in it. So why does it matter if they learn to run, jump, hop, walk? They might not be somebody that plays a sport that uses throwing and catching later on. But actually it's really important because it's what happens in terms of our coordination and the linking different actions in our body that throwing and catching and some of our object control skills do that help wider development and lay foundations. So for example, if we think about the act of throwing, you might think, if my child's not going to be an overarm thrower, why does it matter if they learn to overarm throw? Well, we spend time on teaching young children to throw because it's a complex multi-limb action. What that means is that when you see someone doing what we call a proficient throw, so they've learnt the skill of throwing and they've learnt how to do a basic throw, that is using the whole body, with the top half of our body doing something to the bottom half and the right side doing something different to the left half. And what that means is that by learning that skill, the child is learning to coordinate both their arms doing something different at the same time as both of their legs doing something different. So for example, if you've got a child learning to overarm throw, that child is learning to step with one foot whilst they're throwing with the other arm. So what happens is, let's make them happy and smiling because they're learning to throw. As they learn to throw, they're stepping. If they throw with their right arm is back, it's throwing forward. Their left foot is stepping at the same time. So the top half of the body is doing one thing. At the same time, the bottom half of the body is doing something different. And both sides of the body are doing what we call something in opposition. And that complex, coordinated action takes a lot of practice and a lot of managing. And in order for young children to get to that position of being able to do this complex multi-limb throw, they are having to wire together lots and lots of different systems. So their legs, their muscles are having to be coordinated through their nervous system to the brain to be linked to what the arms are doing. So that whole process not only is doing a lot of wiring in the brain, which is quite complex, bringing different sides of the body together, which we know is really good for processing in the brain, but is also bringing together lots of coordination. And in the case of something like throwing, where if you're doing that throw on the move, which you'd want to be doing if you're proficient, you're learning to step into it, so it's a movement, you're also developing your dynamic balance. Now that basic skill of a throw that we've got here is a basic throw, what we call a proficient throw. And this proficient throw is not what a throw would look like in different sports, but children need to be able to do this, master this throw, where they're able to use both sides of the body in opposition with coordination to be able to then say, oh, right, I think I'll try a sport. They might try cricket and they might say, right, I'm going to go and play cricket. And then they will learn how to use that throw as a technique in cricket. So they will change the way they use that throw depending on what they're doing in their cricket game. They might be bowling, they might be fielding at the boundary, they might be fielding in close. So whatever they're doing, they will adapt that throw to the sport that they're playing, but they have to be proficient in that throw first before they're ready to play that sport. So in terms of, well, what if my child isn't going to play cricket or tennis or any sport that involves throwing or become an athlete and do javelin? It doesn't matter, but what they've done is they've developed a very coordinated, balanced movement repertoire. So they've become more competent as a whole mover. And that's really important in terms of keeping their options open, their choices, but also in managing their body and wiring their systems together.